These are in the form of myalgia, weakness, myositis. Rhabdomyolysis is very rare, but a fatal or a very serious complication. Then we have GI symptoms and LFT derangement, even sometimes pancreatitis and impairment of cognition. So overall, the incidence of these musculoskeletal side effect in the form of myalgia is around 10 to 20%. Now, the definition of myalgia is basically, there are again different ACC, NLA, and FDA. They have given definition, but ACC, AHA are the one which are basically accepted and widely used. So myalgia is basically there is a pain in the muscles, and there is no increase in creatine kinase elevation. But the next stage is myositis, when there is a pain, that is myalgia is there, maybe some small weakness, and plus elevation of creatine kinase enzyme. Then we have myopathy, is actually a general term for any disorder of muscles. And then rarely there can be rhabdomyolysis, when besides pain, weakness, creatine kinase is more than 10 times. In fact, in rhabdomyolysis, it is maybe more than 100 to 200 times of upper limit of normal. Then there can be elevated creatinine in rhabdomyolysis. So that's how we differentiate clinically and by some lab test, like which category patient belongs to and how serious is the adverse effect. So I would be discussing 3 small cases, and accordingly, we would learn how we manage statin intolerance. So we have a 62-year-old male, diabetic, hypertensive, taking atorvastatin 20 milligram for last 3 years. Now he's been complaining now progressively worsening of muscle pains and fatigue for last 2 months. So understand, patient is on statin for 3 years and the complaint is coming for last 2 months. On examination, there is muscle tenderness, but the strength of muscle is normal. That is, power is normal. LDL cholesterol is 65, triglycerides 135, HDL 45. Creatine kinase is mildly increased. It's 2 times of the upper limit of normal. LFT is normal. So the question arises, what we do? Stop the statins, decrease the dose of the statins, switch to a different statin, or none of the above. So let's see how we. It's not a open forum. Otherwise, I would have asked these questions to the audience. So here, important thing is, since it is a delayed onset of myalgia, as I told you that patients been having myalgia for 2 months, but taking statin for last 3 years. So generally, in such cases, there's always a secondary cause. It may not be a statin, may not be the cause, and it is advised by even NICE guidelines that thyroid function test should be done before even starting statins. So in this patient, TSH was found to be high, 15, and like a case of primary hypothyroidism, and thyroid replacement treatment was done, and atorvastatin was temporarily stopped initially, and that it was resumed. The only thing we learn from this case is that, if there is a late onset of myalgia, means delayed onset rather, after a couple of years of starting statin, generally there is a secondary cause. And second point is, if there is a myalgia and CK is not very high, less than 5 times, don't totally stop the statins, or stop temporarily and start in low dose. And all these patients generally tolerate the statins very well. So we should exclude secondary causes, and for myalgia, the secondary causes are viral illnesses, endocrinopathy, vitamin D deficiency, polymyalgia rheumatica. Creatine kinase elevation can be due to direct muscle trauma after strenuous physical activity, antiretroviral medications, and some illicit drugs like cocaine and amphetamines. Let's come to a second case. 48-year-old male, obese, hypertensive, dyslipidemia and prediabetes. Atorvastatin he's been taking 40 milligram because he had to undergo PDCA 2 months back. Now he's been complaining of severe myalgia, and since he is a driver by occupation, it is interfering with his work for almost 10 days. There's no muscle weakness. LDL is 85, HDL is 42, triglycerides 152, LFT normal, and CK is again normal. So basically, patient is having a moderate to severe myalgia with normal creatinine kinase, and since his profession is driver, and he's on atorva very high dose. So what is to be done in this case now? You stop again statin, or decrease the dose of atorvastatin, switch to other statin, switch to either ezetimibe or other non-statin medications. So there is a PRIMO study, and there were 8,000 patients on high dose statins, and in this study it was seen that 10.5% reported myalgia, and median onset was almost 1 month after starting statin. 1/3 of these patients were not able to participate in activities with the adverse effects, and 20% of these patients were taking atorvastatin, 18% were taking simvastatins, the rest is not clear. So basically, overall, as of today, if patient is having minimal myalgia and there is less than 5 times of creatinine kinase elevation, so these are the guidelines, we decrease the dose or switch to a different statin. I'll be coming in the next slide how we switch over to a different statin. If there is a moderate to severe myalgia, you should stop a statin even if creatinine kinase is normal, because the symptoms are too severe. Now, one important thing we have to remember is that there are lipophilic statins and there are hydrophilic statins. Now, lipophilic statins, the only thing is since they are lipid soluble, there is a passive diffusion of these statins into extrahepatic tissues, so they have muscle side effects. So these lipophilic statins, as I told you, they diffuse to extrahepatic tissues, and there is basically muscle side effects. And also these lipophilic can cross blood-brain barrier, and sorry, it's changing. I don't know. Yeah. So they cross blood-brain barrier, and they can be even anosmia. So atorvastatin, commonly used statin, is a lipophilic statin, and lovastatin, simvastatin, pitavastatin, they're also available in India. Fluvastatin is probably not available. So these are all lipophilic statins, and we will have more effects or adverse effects musculoskeletal with these statins, and they can be even insomnia. Now, hydrophilic statins are water soluble, and they are hepatoselective, so they do not cross blood-brain barrier, and also they do not diffuse to extrahepatic tissues, so they have lesser side effects in the form of musculoskeletal, that is myalgia. And these statins are rosuvastatin and pravastatin. In fact, pravastatin is the best statin because it has minimal cytochrome P453A metabolism, so it doesn't interact with other medications also. Drug-to-drug interaction is also less. But the only problem is it has not been approved by various organizations to be used as a, like high-intensity treatment. It is only for mild to moderate intensity. So for high-intensity treatment, we have only 2 choices with us, and that is atorvastatin and rosuvastatin. That's it. So a meta-analysis of 135 people, previously studies, it included 250,000 patients combined, and they patients were given simvastatin and pravastatin, and they had the fewest side effect. So basically, it has been studied in almost 2.5 lakh of patients over 135 studies, that hydrophilic statins have lesser side effects. So basically, if a patient has side effect and patient is on lipophilic statin like atorvastatin, we can change it to rosuvastatin, and we can start with a low dose of hydrophilic like simvastatin, and then we can, increase the dose later on. So in this patient, what should be the next goal, or how we should start? Like, we hold the statin for 4 to 6 weeks, try a different statin, or start with even supplements like nutraceuticals. Again, I'll be discussing these points in my subsequent slides. So in this patient, basically, I stopped atorvastatin for 4 weeks because since, it was severe, patient was a driver on 40 milligram atorvastatin. So immediately, the stopping statin is advised, and there was complete resolution of symptoms, and it was changed to a hydrophilic rosuvastatin 10 milligram. And the patient accepted rosuvastatin well, and there was no musculoskeletal side effects. And after 6 weeks, the dose, 4 to 6 weeks, the dose was increased to 20 milligram, and it was well tolerated. Okay, so second case, we learned that, if moderate to severe symptoms are there, we should stop statin. And if it is a lipophilic, we should change it to a hydrophilic statin and start with a slow dose and gradually build up the dose. Let's come to a third case. It's a 64-year-old lady, hypertensive, chronic kidney disease, ischemic cardiomyopathy, on amlodipine, metoprolol extended release, Diator, rosuvastatin 10 milligram, creatinine 1.2 on upper border, you can say, upper borderline. Patient developed symptoms of upper respiratory tract infection, and patient was started on azithromycin and levocetirizine. Now, patient presents after almost 5 to 7 days later with drowsiness, renal failure, respiratory failure, creatinine kinase 10,000 units per liter. And there was also myoglobin so it was a clear-cut diagnosis of rhabdomyolysis. Patient had to be admitted in ICU, was started on mechanical ventilation, hemodialysis for acute coronary insufficiency or injury. Statin was obviously stopped, and ultimately patient recovered within week to 10 days. So what next? Now the question arises, should we start statin in this patient ever, or we should stop statins for lifelong? So this is an important thing, because for statins, important thing is they are the best medication, number one. Despite of best of our efforts, we cannot achieve LDL goals. And at the same time, if somebody has statin intolerance, it is totally, very, very, difficult situation, like what to do. So rhabdomyolysis is a very serious and fatal, adverse effect of statin. Incidence is 3.4 per 1 lakh person years. So very rare complication. The risk factors we have to understand now. Age, like in this patient, age was also important. Ladies are more prone. Comorbid conditions, if they have like hypertension, diabetes, again they are more prone, and especially chronic kidney disease. This patient had a creatinine of 1.2, and if you start some medications which increase statin levels, like there are certain medicines which are again metabolized by cytochrome C453A. So those, medications will increase the levels of statin, and patient can have adverse effects. So in this patient, there are a number of negative points were there for this patient to have rhabdomyolysis, and this patient was started on azithromycin, which is a macrolide, and it increases the levels of. So in such a case, the choice of antibiotic was wrong, and that led to all these complications. So basically, important thing to remember is either we stop statins in patient altogether and give only niacinamide and bile acid sequestrants, or we wait for some time, let the patient improve, start with low dose and low potency intermittent. Let's see what is to be done, because we can stop statins, no problem, anybody can say. But the problem is, if we stop statins, achieving LDL goals is not an easy task. One. Secondly, all these non-statin treatments have not given very good results. They have given results only when they are added on the top of statin. And third point is, Non-statin treatments also have not shown benefits in the form of cardiovascular events reduction and mortality, except maybe I'll tell you, ezetimibe in IMPROVE IT trial has shown, and then EPA also has shown in REDUCE IT trial. But overall, the results achieved are not very good, and there's hardly any cardiovascular outcome. So basically, in most of the patient, we should try our best to start statin, to change it to a different statin, start with a low dose with the low potency ones. Now, other important thing is we can even give, ezetimibe for the time being till the time we stop statin. And ezetimibe is a, Niemann-Pick like C1 inhibitor. It blocks cholesterol absorption from small intestine, and it has shown promising results in IMPROVE IT trial, 18,000 patients post-acute coronary syndrome. And it was shown that simvastatin plus ezetimibe showed better results compared to simvastatin alone. So this was, an important trial, a landmark trial, and now it has been, in fact, advised that before even doubling the dose of statin, it's better to add ezetimibe to have the lesser side effects of statins. Now, other important is this, study showed that intermittently dose statin, because it's not that you give every day. You can give alternate day or twice in a week, or some studies have shown even once a week, statin is still effective. But this is only in patients who do not tolerate and where we don't have any choice left with us. So case 3, statin was stopped, obviously. As I mentioned, patient had to be admitted in ICU. And after recovery, when patient came, again a statin was not started. No right approach actually is there. Individualized decision making, we have to discuss with the patient. Patient's values, preferences are important. So we can avoid statins forever, or we can start with a very low dose plus ezetimibe. This is what should be the approach in this patient once patient recovers completely. Now, there are a couple of other treatments available for statin intolerance, the road ahead. Like what other medications we have? We have PCSK9, but again PCSK9, which are basically, monoclonal antibodies, and they lead to a down regulation of LDL receptors. And we have evolocumab available in India. So these medications are also, it has been seen in this trial. We can see evolocumab, there was a further 50 to 60% additional reduction in LDL on the top of statins. Then even LDL apheresis, rarely, but these are the patients, familial hypercholesterolemia, even for PCSK9. But PCSK9 can be given in very high risk category of people where statins plus ezetimibe is given and LDL is still more than 70. Because in very high risk category, we need up to 40 to 50 milligram per percent of LDL. So there, if it is not achievable with maximum dose of statin plus ezetimibe, we can have PCSK9. Otherwise, PCSK9 and LDL apheresis, they are generally, indicated for patients with familial hypercholesterolemia, homozygous or heterozygous. Now, another important aspect is nutraceuticals. We have a number of nutraceuticals available with us, and they can also be used in patients who are totally intolerant to statins because we don't have a choice. And there is a trial, the REDUCE IT trial I mentioned to you. There is a eicosapentaenoic acid, a pure form of omega-3 fatty acids. Because before this, there was another trial, JALIS trial, where omega-3 fatty acid were given, but around 1.8 gram or 2 gram, and it was not a pure form, it was a mixed. So results were not good. But in REDUCE IT trial, eicosapentaenoic acid was used 4 grams a day, and it was shown for the first time that reducing triglyceride levels, the baseline triglyceride levels in these patients were taken more than 135. Even 135 was taken as, a minimum was 135. So in such patients, the first time it was shown that nutraceutical eicosapentaenoic acid, if we give in patients with hypertriglyceridemia, In fact, and LDL were less than 100 in all these patients. Even up to 135, there was event reduction by 25%. Then alpha tocotrienol. It is another important nutraceutical which can be given. Coenzyme Q10, which is an antioxidant, and it acts through mitochondrial electron transport. Phytosterols, soluble fibers, berberin, polycosanol, silymarin. So there are a number of curcumin. Curcumin is haldi, basically what we normally use. So all these have shown some effects up to 5 to 10% reduction in LDL cholesterol. So something is better than nothing. If you're not able to give statin at all, or if you're able to give statin in a small dose and we want a better effect, we can add some nutraceuticals and ezetimibe in such patients. So this is reduced trial only, and I told you already when icosapentinoic or icosapent ethyl was given in a dose of 4 grams a day, there was a reduction by 25% in primary endpoints: cardiovascular death, MI, stroke, coronary revascularization, and unstable angina. Now, this is an important thing. Now, I've already mentioned about the statin intolerance, but now I want to convey one thing which I've already mentioned also, that statin intolerance is the Achilles heel for CVD prevention. Because despite of giving the best of the statins in maximum dose, we cannot achieve the desired LDL goals. So, and if patient has statin intolerance, you're gone. Then what will you do to decrease CVD prevention? So, statin intolerance is really a Achilles heel for CVD prevention. Now, the second point is it real? This is an important thing which I want to highlight. It is not that real as what we think. The trials have shown up to 80% of the patients who develop symptoms or adverse effects because of statins, they ultimately tolerate statins. The only thing is we have to use different strategies. It's not that we stops immediately and start after only a short time and in a high dose. No. So as I told you, the strategies are again changed from lipophilic to a hydrophilic. Wait for some time, start with a small dose, wait for some time, and then you can gradually increase the dose of statin. And if you can't increase the dose of statin, you can add ezetimibe, or you can even add nutraceuticals. Okay. So overall, only 10 to 20%, around 20% of the patients need to stop statins, and in these also only 5% to 10% only are kind of totally statin intolerant patient, where 2 statins, like the condition for statin intolerance is that if patient is intolerant to 2 or more different statins, then it is a true statin intolerance, and this is only in 5 to 10%. Imagine. So around 80% we easily manage, 10% like 80 to 90, that range, then we have to have intermittent strategies and different kind of strategies with us. So there are certain risk factors which we have to see before starting statins. One is advanced age. Patients who are elderly, start with a very small dose and start with a safe, less potent statin, where we may not be very aggressive. In ladies also, we should take the same precaution. Low BMI, again, because the muscle mass is also low. So there also we should be little cautious. Then the patient has a multi-system disease. We have to be cautious. And as I told you, delayed onset of symptoms. Then secondary causes should be seen, and as per NICE guidelines, thyroid function test should be done before starting statins, because they can be high cholesterol levels with hypothyroidism. So secondary causes should always be ruled out before starting statins, in fact. Then excess alcohol intake, history of intolerance to statins, like previous history of intolerance. Then creatinine kinase elevation at baseline, unexplained cramps, family history of myopathy. Again, it's very important for statin-induced myotoxicity. There are a couple of other important, medicine-related. One is high dose of statin. Always give And there are number of studies which have shown that Asians are more sensitive, or they need a lesser dose of statin to achieve the same dose. It has been shown in some number of Japanese studies also. So even Indians, if you see, Indians are generally intolerant to high doses. So the basic principle should be start with a low dose and gradually build up the dose till patient tolerates, the maximum tolerated dose. Now, the number of other drugs which patient is not only, taking statins, patient is having comorbid conditions. So, amiodarone, antifungals, cyclosporin, fibrates, macrolide antibiotics, nefazodone, nicotinic acid, protease inhibitors, then thiazolidinediones, verapamil, and warfarin. So these are number of drugs which we have to take into consideration, because all these drugs are metabolized through cytochrome P453A4 pathway, and they competitively, competes with the statin for metabolism. So they increase the levels of statins. So, friends, this is my last slide, and take-home message is very clear. The first point is always, and this is true for all medications, not only statins, always calculate risk-benefit ratio. Patients who are very young, there's a low risk, there's no point, statins are not even advised as primary prevention. Obviously, for secondary advice in all the patients. So what I want to say, that risk benefit should be calculated in all the people before starting. First point. The second is high risk patient. Always stratify the patient. The risk stratification should be done. So high risk patient, definitely, then you should go for, obviously we have to start, but then check other, drug to drug interactions and try to start with a low dose. Then exclude secondary causes always, and at least thyroid function test should be done before starting statins. If patient has mild myalgia, then just lower the dose of statin. If still patient cannot tolerate, change to a different statin from lipophilic to hydrophilic. If patient is having moderate to severe myalgia, you have to stop. Like in the second case, driver, occupation, 40 milligram of atorvastatin, like patient had the severe symptoms, you have to stop. And in such cases, stop for some time, around 3 to 4 weeks, till all symptoms subside, and then change, like we change from atorva to rosuva, and start with a small dose. Or maybe in such cases, instead of daily, you can give intermittent statins, alternate day, twice in a week, or even once a week. Then the patient does not have any myalgia, but there is an asymptomatic creatinine kinase elevation. When it is less than 5 times, continue statins, but evaluate for the cause of this increased creatinine kinase. And if there's a rhabdomyolysis, the third case we saw, case number 3, there was a profound muscle, almost paralysis, myoglobinuria, even creatinine was high. We have to stop immediately, definitely. And we should avoid statins for some time, at least for a month or 2 months or 3 months. And then later on, we can start with small low dose and check for other drug-to-drug interactions if they are there. And then accordingly, we should manage patients. And if patient is intolerant to statin, as I mentioned to you, 2 or more statins. If patient is intolerant, this is a true statin intolerance. And here comes the role of non-statin agents. And they are, one is ezetimibe. Then we can even use fibrates, although they do not decrease the, LDL to that extent. Nutraceuticals, and in rare cases, if patient can afford, and we find out, the risk-benefit ratio, maybe PCSK9. So with this, I conclude my talk, and I convey my thanks to all of you